Danke für euren wertschätzenden Applaus. Wir fragen jetzt, also nachdem das Gras da ja auch schon ein bisschen grüner ist als woanders, setzen wir darauf international jetzt noch einen auf und fragen, ist das Gras woanders grüner? An Louis Presset und Tito Visser. Und zwar ist es die Frage der Fördermöglichkeiten in den Niederlanden. Wir haben jeweils einen 5- bis 7-minütigen Impuls und diskutieren danach. Und dann kommt die Frage über Slido, was euch daraus inspiriert. Also jetzt als allererstes, ich stelle Sie gar nicht in extenso vor, weil das Sie im Rahmen Ihrer Präsentation selber tun. Ich freue mich jetzt sehr abzugeben. Je suis très enchantée. Louis Presset von FEWIS bringt seine eigene Präsentation mit. Herzlich willkommen auf dieser Bühne. Oui, enchanté. Bitte sehr.
Hello, everybody. Yes, I'm very pleased to be here because it's extremely interesting, even if I don't get everything of this morning debates, just to see how you organize your own debates between the members is extremely interesting. So I will start with maybe the presentation of what is an independent ensemble according to the French definition. It's not exactly the same type of ensembles, I would say. We will find some similar characteristics, but it's not exactly the same. Okay, every ensembles of this federation of independent ensemble in France, which name is FEWIS, carry the ambition of an artistic excellence and are professional ensembles. I insist on this aspect because actually when in the end of the 90s, when the Baroque sector grew a lot, one of the issues was to make sure that the rest of the musical sector would consider them as professional, as good musicians, and you know, because it was the condition of finding some public subsidies if they were professional musicians. So it was quite important. Another characteristic is mixed economic model. Actually, they are public and private funded. But of course, so each of them are kind of small enterprise working in the same market, extremely concurrential market. Market from the venues, but also concurrency for subsidies. So it's extremely a liberal model, but of course a liberal model inside a sector of music which is largely, widely public funded with public subsidies. Every opera houses, every festivals, every auditorium gets a majority of public subsidies. So it's a kind of private model inside a public sector. Another characteristic is hiring independent musicians, freelance or intermittent. I don't know if you know about this kind of regime, which is quite exceptional. I will go back to this later. But yes, of course, this is a very important specificity because it defines, thank you. It defines those independent ensembles compared to the musicians in the big symphony orchestra, which hire permanently musicians with a permanent contract. So this is one of the difference between the sector of symphonic orchestras and our independent ensembles. They focus on artistic project. Well, the idea is to say that to make a project or program possible and then to develop such a specific type of ensembles, it requires a high intern administrative skill that is based on a long-term financing program. It explains the necessity of an administrative team in each ensemble. And this administration organization is one of the identification criteria that defines the independent ensembles. It's an identification criteria that differentiates us from traditional classical and romantic chamber music ensembles. There is really something maybe that is different from you here in your definition is the chamber music, classical and romantic repertoire are not inside our federation. We consider that their issues, the way they work and they develop themselves is quite different from ours, so it's not necessary for them to be part of this federation. So this gives you some few ideas about the distribution of the ensembles and their variety. Maybe more interesting is the key figures of the activity of the ensembles. So as you can see, we are talking about 200 ensembles, members of the FEVIS. Actually, there are a lot of different ensembles outside the FEVIS, mainly smaller and maybe newer ensembles. So on those 200 ensembles, we imagine, we can say that there is 80 million euros of budget, cumulative budget. The average of their financing is 1/3 of public subsidies. And it represents something like 7,000 musicians for 1.5 million spectators. Okay, I go maybe, okay, we are extremely active internationally abroad. More, actually, as you can see, the biggest destination for our ensembles is Germany. And maybe yes. So I come to the support program, which the ensembles can rely on. Okay, before 1987, it was quite difficult for the ensembles to be accompanied, to be subsidized, because they were not, as I was saying, they were not considered as professional musicians. Then, after this creation of this ATIS by les Arts Florissants, things changed very much, and all the Baroque scene got a lot of great reputation, and so it changed the view of the public administration, and we could work on a new program of help since then. And so, just 1 year after the creation of FEVIS, we had the possibility of a new way to be subsidized. Maybe to explain to you what is our founding program, the most important in France. We have it since 2000. And I think that's the main explanation of the development of the number and the quality of the ensembles in France. This program, which is from the state, so from the French state, is working on a decentralized method, which in every region, the representative of the states are evaluating and giving money to the different ensembles. And this program is based on two different parts. One is something quite traditional, the project aid, which is a one-off aid given to support the production of a new creation. And maybe more interesting, and which I think for us was quite a kind of revolution, is this agreement, which is a multi-year aid for 2 to 4 years. And this multi-year aid is aim to provide over time support adapted to the global activity cycle of the artist or artistic team, lasting 2, 3, or 4 consecutive years, possibly renewed. The period is depending on the artist's career and the degree of structuring and maturity of their artistic and cultural project. This aid is intended for the most innovative and artistically confirmed teams and whose achievements have at least a national influence. This particular multi-year agreement system is the key of the development of the long-term financing of administrative structures, which is one of the most important parts in the success development of an independent ensemble. Since this program, which is built by the state, many more administration and authorities developed their own program of public funding on the same model, which saw the activity of the ensembles were supported by the country, the state, France, and then by the different regions, departments or big cities. All of them started to build a kind of two-parts support program, like on the model of the one of the state. So yes, it gives you an idea, of course, what kind of amount we are talking about, because as you see, the Ministry of Culture's credits are 4 billion, but the local authorities I was talking about, régions, départements, cities, it's almost twice as big. So it's quite important. And on this part of the slide, you can see what are those funding for the 126 ensembles that answered our survey, because not all of the members are answering. Maybe I will stop there. Actually, we have some other kind of help. The ensembles can be helped by other kind of programs, and then you can have the revenue breakdown here. I'm done, I guess.
Great. Thank you very much. Just two quick questions. We have a little dialogue later, but can I apply as an ensemble for both at the same time?
For sure. It depends on the different programs, not for the state one. It was supposed to be a one-off aid, and then just only for project, and then this multi-year program agreement. But the time coming, it was like the one, and then in the during the development of the ensemble, you become helped for 2 years, then 3, then 4.
Okay. And last question, how can you decide what you do with the money? How free is an ensemble to, I'm talking about the second, about the 2 to 4 year period. What can the money be used for? Because you say for your global activities. So what does that include and what does it exclude? It
includes quite everything. You can just choose how you spend the money, but of course you have to candidate. So we have to show a project to the ministry and to the different expert committees. And so, of course, you describe a project, so you cannot do anything.
Yeah, I understand.
But you can take every kind of expense according to the project you will
So even
present.
your basic costs for 2 to 4 years can be integrated in that?
Exactly.
Okay.
And the administrative cost, the structuration of the ensemble cost, everything is inside.
Everything. Thank you very much. We go on in a triple dialogue later. Thank you very much, Louis. Thank you very much. And we build on now with Tito Visser from the Nederlandse Kammerchor. Happy to have you. I hand over the microphone to you. Or wherever. Or you take this one. Yeah.
Thank you. Such an honor to be with such a distinguished group of people here and many ensembles that we've already collaborated with. I'm Tito Visser, and I have the privilege of being the proud director of the Netherlands Chamber Choir for the past 10 years, an ensemble founded in 1937. One of the leading newspapers in the Netherlands wrote about the chamber choir. This choir is to choral music what the Royal Concertgebouw Orchestra is to orchestral music, a leading top ensemble. But we are one of many Dutch top ensembles. I mentioned the Netherlands Bach Society, Schoenberg Ensemble, Amsterdam Baroque Orchestra, Orchestra of the 18th century, Amsterdam Sinfonietta, not to forget. Dutch music ensembles add vibrancy to Dutch musical life. They are incredibly diverse, both in terms of genres and cultures, and their drive for innovation is highly regarded, whether it's exploring new and old music styles or bringing music together with other art forms. It happens without exception at the highest level. Netherlands has 35 structurally subsidized ensembles ranging in the size from 3 to 30 people, representing genres such as jazz, string orchestra, chamber music, baroque music, chamber choir, Arabic music, Arabic Andalusian music, klezmer, contemporary, pop, impro, classical, percussion, and classical for youth, not to forget. With relatively modest resources, we achieve maximum output. An average orchestra in the Netherlands has 75,000 spectators annually. For this, it receives between 6 and 10 million euros in subsidies from national, provincial, and municipal governments. Compare that to the ensembles. The Netherlands Chamber Choir alone attracted 88,000 spectators in 2022 with only 1 million euros of subsidies. All of the 35 ensembles together receive a total of 12 million euros, and the orchestral sector receives 60 million. Moreover, we generate much more own income. For orchestras, the percentage of own income is around 20% of revenue, while for the ensembles it is 3 times as high, 60%. Little close to the French situation. Furthermore, we are an important cultural export product. The Netherlands Chamber Choir has performed in recent years at venues including Lincoln Center, New York, Adelaide Arts Festival, Festival of Flanders, Hong Kong Arts Festival, Concerthaus Vienna, accompanying the King and the Queen on their state visit to Austria, Cologne, Philharmonie de Paris, South Bank Center, Beijing, Guangzhou, Shanghai. In short, we are innovative, highly diverse, generate a large audience, are cost effective, and we are an international export product. Things seem to be going well for us. But do they really? Because we pay our musicians too little, we believe. And now the government agrees with us. So a fair pay code has been installed. We are too wide, we believe as well. So an inclusion and diversity code has been developed. In addition, the government also requires us to work on sustainability, governance, digitalization, and entrepreneurship. We all know how important this is, but the solution must be sought with an awareness of the context in which we operate. The solution for the part lies in the awareness of the whole, the political context, the socio-cultural context, the economic context, the historical context. May I attempt to provide that context, a Dutch context that is, however, also becoming a European context, I believe. In the Netherlands, culture is not the pillar of society as it is in France or Germany. In your country, culture is an ionic column, in ours, a modest traffic pole. Why? For that, we must go back to the history of our country. We have built ourselves up from the clay. We are, you wouldn't think it, like the United States, new land built on marsh or peat or reclaimed from the sea. In the 16th century, the Dutch philosopher Barlaeus already called us the mercator sapiens, literally the wise merchant, but also the big profiteer. Barlaeus thus described a spineless opportunist who would even sell his mother if it brought profit. This opportunist does not openly speak about his deep love for music when it does not suit him politically, like our Prime Minister Mark Rutte. So in that country, there is no room for culture. Art is associated with the elite. Elite is left-wing, the political undercurrent is right-wing. This world is becoming more and more Dutch. The mercator sapiens spreads through Europe like a bad bug in a New York YMCA. We must also note that in the Netherlands, culture is becoming increasingly inaccessible. Music education has become unaffordable. A year of piano lessons costs 60 euros in France. Last week, as a Dutchman, I paid a bill of 1,268 euros for one child. I have 3 more children. The right-wing populist trick works, declaring culture elitist and proclaiming it the mouthpiece of the left-wing elite. Marx spoke of religion as the opium of the people. Religion keeps people in a trance. Populism is the new religion. Populism is the opium of the people. Art is the only thing that can awaken them from it, because art helps people critically examine the world. But the populist, with his alternative truth, does not want onlookers in his attempt to keep this world white and male. And so the populist will do everything to undermine art, not to make culture broadly accessible, but to isolate it, to encapsulate it, so that it can quietly die. Let us then realize that after 25 years of populism in the Netherlands, we Dutch now have created our own monster. A generation of politicians who no longer see the importance of culture because they have not been educated in it. A generation of politicians who do not understand that culture forms the basis of a coherent, connected society. Who do not see that singing together in secondary education reduces bullying exponentially, who are not sensitive to the argument that investing in culture saves billions in healthcare on the long term because we build a happy, connected society in which vulnerability is considered a strength. And so, scarcity in the cultural sector is increasing. Music schools are closing, subsidies are disappearing, culture is being encapsulated. And what is the response of the Dutch cultural sector itself? We began to cut ourselves in the wrists. Even the Dutch Arts Council recently used language that suggests the worst. They said, perhaps it's time to cut down the giants of the forest. By giants of the forest, they meant institutions like orchestras and opera houses, but also, for example, the Netherlands Chamber Choir. Why not? Cannibalism among those who have to distribute scarcity. Don't think it will be any different in Germany or France. The music ensembles are on the front lines. We depend on conservatories that train top musicians. We depend on subsidies to continue innovating. We depend on audience. Hence, we depend on a culturally interested society. And we do not have large buildings with which politicians can spray their territory and from which construction companies can make good money. We do not cozy up to the center of power. If our supply lines, the music schools, the conservatories, the subsidies, and eventually the audiences are cut off, we will be the first to quietly die. In the Netherlands, an infrastructure is collapsing because politics completely lacks the insight that culture should be a pillar of society in an inclusive, sustainable, and fairly paid manner. There is a lack of awareness that we need to move away from scarcity, that we must invest like madmen in cultural education, that we must fight to offer culture to everyone, keep it accessible to those who have a small wallet. We can impose as many codes on ourselves as we want, write ambitious reports on digitization or sustainability, but if this deep understanding is not the basis, culture will not receive the respect it deserves. Then the Mercator Sapiens will also take over your country. Ensembles are at the forefront. My advice, collaborate. Only together you can make a stand. Step out of your own shadow, because no matter how important you consider yourself, your importance is trivial compared to the importance of the culture as a whole. Step out of the daily grind, because what you forget to fear today will be reality tomorrow. Step out of your own context and see that you are part of the larger whole. Fight for culture. Culture cannot be sold, but it must be fought for. The only alternative für Deutschland and the world is Kultur.
this was not quite what I expected that would happen. The question was, is it greener somewhere else, like in France and the Netherlands? And this is what we earn, this kind of Brandrede for culture. There's no time for a discussion anymore. I apologize, because the impulses have been much longer. But maybe we finish with the last question to you, and then we have Slido, what you are taking out from these impulses, and then we have lunch. So what does that mean? Talking about funding, support structures, you talk about collaboration. So what is your advice in our direction if we take this fight seriously?
Well, the thing is that it's like the fundaments, and you have the little mice who eat the fundaments. We see everywhere, whether it's on a local or a state level, we see that subsidies are being decreased. We see that little initiatives are downsized, et cetera, et cetera. And if we don't fight all of those little things, we slowly discover, when looking back, that it's become a cheese with holes, an Emmentaler. And that eventually will collapse when you put heat underneath, then it will go down like that.
Louis, you also have let's say, a strong right wing in France. No, talking about this kind of development all over Europe, yeah, we can look at whatever. Also the East, like Germany, wherever you name it. Is this fight for little initiatives? Do people do that in France? How do they do it? Or you still have this kind of Gießkanne, and yeah, the grass is still green in France, although the world is evolving. How do you react to what Tito just shared with us?
Actually, I think the situation that you explained and described is exactly the same in France, of course. So this model I was talking about is a quite old model now. It's an ancient model which is still working for a few years, but every year we can see some pieces, of the puzzle falling down, and so the situation is worse and worse. So we have to do this kind of fight, trying to keep the space, the program we have, and it's quite difficult. And yes, the populism everywhere are working in France. So, as you saw, a large part of the finance of the culture comes from the local authorities, and a large part of those local authorities are now in the hand of the extreme right wings, plus right wings actually, and so they are cutting the budget for culture. So yes, we are exactly the same situation. But maybe the only space where this populism are not working too hard is at the European level. So maybe there is something to gain altogether at this level, because at the national level it's quite difficult, and then we don't know what's going on with the next ones. But maybe at the European level there is something to gain there.
Okay, it feels like a big discussion we could now open up on top of this topic, which is impossible for that very day. But we are going to talk about Kommune, Länder, Bund in the afternoon, and we could also thrive the question of European, Horizon Europe. There are many programs. Maybe there is some expertise also in the room. Maybe we just add that also to the discussion in the afternoon. This is a bit like, we are in the middle of the day, we have to take that U-curve, yeah? So thank you very much for this very political impulse at that time.